On eNCA, DSTV, channel 403. My name is William, last name Lahong. Our top story at the moment, the acting public protector has found President Cyril Ramaphosa did not violate the ethics code in his dealings at his Phala Phala farm. In fact, Kholeka Gcaleka says the president did not expose himself to any risk of a conflict between his constitutional duties and obligations and, of course, his private interests. Ramaphosa was accused of a cover-up regarding the burglary and theft of money from his Limpopo farm in 2020. Our reporter Moloko Moloto has been following these developments, and he joins us now live in studio. Moloko, welcome back. Let's talk about this. I imagine that opposition parties, in particular John Steenhuisen, who had raised this matter and had gone as far as even going the legal route, if you will, to try and get the president to answer some questions, is not happy with this report. What can you share with us?
Well, absolutely correct, William. The opposition party in general is not happy. The DA is saying that it's weighing its options, legal options, to look at the possibilities of challenging it. But also the economic freedom fighters is calling that report nonsensical, saying that all right-thinking people must reject it, even making reference to the panel that was headed by former Chief Justice Sandile, Chief Justice, I forget his name, who actually found that the president has questions to answer to. But also other parties, for instance, the National Freedom Party, is saying that the public protector must publish all the evidence, including the interviews she did with all the people involved and affidavits, so that the public can make sense of that. But importantly, at least for the president, is that today he will heave a sigh of relief, all because the public protector says he has done absolutely nothing wrong. He hasn't violated the provisions of the Executive Members Ethics Act, and he hasn't abused state resources. He hasn't sent the members of the Presidential Protection Services Unit to go and look for the people who allegedly stole that particular money. And also, she is saying that the president hasn't received extra payment in terms of the monies that were generated from Phala Phala. In other words, the president, according to her, hasn't really done anything wrong. Maybe let's listen to Advocate Gcaleka.
Considering the evidence in its entirety and the application of the law, there is no basis to exalt such deliberations to a degree where it can be held that there existed a real or potential conflict of interest on the part of the president regarding his duty as the head of cabinet and his interest in the game cattle farming at Phala Phala farm in violation of the code. Thus, no evidence could be found to underpin a finding or a conclusion that the president's comments or utterances in the regard were a continuous act to be considered or construed as active involvement in the business or paid work. Aggregated against the standard imposed by the Executive Ethics Code, it is found that there is no basis upon which to conclude that the President contravened Clause 2.1b, d, Clause 2.3d, f and g of the Executive Ethics Code, including the period following the alleged theft of the US dollars that took place on or about 9 February 2020 from his private house at Phala Phala farm in Waterberg, Limpopo. Therefore, the evidence does not support the allegation that the president's financial interest in game or cattle farming at Phala Phala farm exposes him to any situation involving the risk of a conflict between his official responsibilities and his private interests.
Now, Moloko, we know that the president didn't necessarily receive a salary from his company where he's a sole director that runs his Phala Phala farm, but the acting public protector went into quite a great bit of detail explaining just those nuances. Take us through.
So the president is the sole director of a company called Ndabanyoni Close Cooperation. This is the company that is trading when it comes to whatever is happening there at Phala Phala. So this millions of rands and dollars went into the well, maybe not in the bank because that money was hidden in the furniture. Sure. Possibly now it has been deposited into the bank. And if that is the case, it went into the coffers of that close cooperation company that is owned solely by the president. He's the only director there. Okay. Now, the public protector is saying the president is not an employee of that company and he could not have received a salary. In other words, she justifies the reasons why she says he did nothing wrong, he did not get an extra salary, because that is prohibited in terms of the Constitution. If you are president, the only salary you receive must be the one you get as head of state. But there's a question of saying, if his company got the money, as much as he did not receive a salary, in terms of his there's an expectation that he needs to declare his financial interests,
right,
that he possibly might have elsewhere. The question is, did he declare that in the financial register that is being and in the custody of the Secretary of Parliament? And that's where you have an issue that he actually, they say, the Office of the Public Protector, he did not have to declare how much money that particular company has made. For him to declare that he is a director of that company in that financial register, they say is enough. Why? Because they believe that company is a stand-alone or personal, a legal person on its own. So for as long as the money did not come from that company that he owns alone as an individual, for as long as the money didn't come into his pocket, there's nothing wrong there. Maybe let's listen
very technical that, Moloko, but I imagine SARS then would have a different argument. They would absolutely want some questions answered by the president, would they not?
No, for sure. Not only SARS with regard to him as a person, as an individual, because if he hasn't personally received the money, there won't be any problems in terms of SARS.
Right.
But because the money went into the company, that company must pay tax. But we know, SARS has already said that they don't have evidence that South Sudanese businessman who is based in Dubai, when he arrived in the country, he declared that money. There's no evidence. So the question is, he might want to pay tax. I think he's got no choice now if the money has gone into his company's bank account. But had this not been discovered, was he going to pay the tax? And it also goes to other investigations that are being done by other institutions. The South African Reserve Bank, it is yet to pronounce on its investigation. But also the Police's Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, known as the Hawks, they must also investigate the issue of criminality around there, whether the president has violated the PRECA Act or provisions of the PRECA Act and all that. But let's listen to the Senior Manager for Legal Services in the Office of the Public Protector explaining why the president did nothing wrong, despite the fact that his company got the money from that Phala Phala sale.
Sure.
The president is a member of the closed corporation, but in terms of the law, the closed corporation maintains an independent personality and income deriving from the activities of the closed corporation does not necessarily befall the president. It goes into the estate order as an asset of the closed corporation. And what the public protector looked at is whether from that income is there a payment or remuneration to the president from the closed corporation. And what we actually found in practice is that the Phala Phala farm, as it was operating as a closed corporation, the president was in fact putting a lot of his own personal money into maintaining the farm and not the other way around.